All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the BlenderNest podcast. Most of us are here. I'm back. I can't remember. Was I here last episode?
Yeah.
I always forget, man. These weeks are getting longer and longer. It's probably this virus, all the news just slowing down the days. But we're all here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was Mantaflow, which is a brand new update to Blender 2.82, and it's a pretty incredible. It's a pretty incredible fluid engine because it cuts out a lot of the problems, especially with like particles and bubbles and foam, because you have all those new particle systems and settings and stuff, and it's a beautiful setup. But it does not come without a lot of issues. Do you guys know about some of the issues that are happening here with Mantaflow with the new update?
I only played around with the smoke stuff, but so did Blender Guru, and he said the issues were shadow flickering. Something with like adaptive domain makes the smoke look super blocky for some reason, and yeah, it just generally doesn't work.
Generally doesn't work.
Yeah, I've seen he's been posting a fair few progress pictures on Twitter, I think, regarding that. He was trying to do some sort of explosion thing, if I'm right. That might be wrong, though.
Yeah, and he bailed on it.
Yeah. And CG Geeks also released a video recently. So I think anyone that's interested in getting like a sort of crash course introduction on Mantaflow should probably check that out as well.
Oh, Jonathan Cron. If nobody's seen Jonathan Cron, he's the master.
He's the Mantaflow guy of YouTube. If you are interested in fluid simulations, which I get a lot of comments asking for fluid simulation tutorials, I personally haven't played with it. Jonathan Cron, he's done 1,000 of them. So if you want to check him out, go check him out, because it'll be a while until I make one.
Yeah, I mentioned him in one of my older videos, something about how to learn simulations for Blender. And he's also done a video about whether it's worth becoming a YouTuber, in which he got a few of our opinions before. So I quite like him. It's definitely worth checking out.
I was just going to say, it's worth saying with the Mantaflow, it's supposed to have loads of bug fixes from 2.82a. So it's worth downloading the latest version of Blender if you are going to play with it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Does it? So I haven't played with it. I've only seen a couple tutorials. Compared to the fluid engine of the past, how much of a significant improvement in terms of making things easier and user interface and all that is it an improvement, or is it just different?
Well, you can pause your simulation. That's something. So if you're caching, you could pause it in the middle. That's the only thing I've noticed. But I don't really know any of the technical stuff. I just see the same smoke. I'm like, I can't get excited about this. But I don't know what I'm doing with Mantaflow, so that's probably why.
I'll tell you what, I'd like to see how I could integrate it with Python in any way. I have not looked into that yet, but that's something that I'd be interested in. I need to take a look at how to interface with it.
What would you want to do with it?
I don't know, but particle systems have so much potential, as I'm sure you know recently by doing your colorblind video, which I quite liked as well. Mm-hmm. But like the reason I would have integrated particle systems with the Biogen add-on to do certain effects previously, but I held off on doing that because I know that the particle system is subject to heavy change. So whatever I write now, I'll have to do rewrites for in the future. So I've been waiting.
Yeah.
So, but now, like, Mantaflow is a kind of established system. There are some bug fixes coming, so I might wait until after that. But once that's done, I'm definitely interested in diving in, and maybe I'll do some videos if I can come up with something for doing Python with Mantaflow. That might be interesting.
Awesome. I think people would love that.
I noticed one really, really cool thing that the community's been playing with. I'm going to say it wrong, but you guys should know what I'm saying. It's called like the OpenDVX importer for other
VDB.
What was it?
VDB.
Yeah. I think it's simulations that have come from things like Houdini, and you can import them into Blender. I believe CG Matter, you played with that.
I'm not only playing with it, I'm making a tutorial on exactly that. Oh yeah.
So how does it work whenever it comes to, say, walk us through how that works because I'm very curious of how you get the fire and the smoke to look real in terms of actually the materials and the volumes and stuff.
So let's say you do your simulation in Houdini, right? So you're doing this pyro effect whatever. You're making an explosion or something in Houdini, and it's saving a bunch of attributes of this volume. It knows the temperature at different points. It knows the heat. Knows the density. Knows stuff like this. What OpenVDB lets you do is you basically take this cache, what you simulated, which has all this data. You can bring it into Blender, and in the shading, you can play with these individual attributes. So you can use this density information to shape your smoke and all this. And I think Jonathan Cron made a tutorial about like the correct way to port it over. I don't know if it's just like settings that he liked or if this is like technically correct, but with a like one principled volume shader, you get really, really realistic looking results without much work, because all the complicated stuff was done in simulation over in Houdini.
So it's probably worth saying that Houdini is sort of like the king of visual effects stuff, like particle systems and stuff. So obviously we want to be able to get stuff from there into Blender, and that's pretty cool. But do people know about the licensing? Because our viewers would probably want to know about.
Tell them about the licensing.
Yes, we were having a discussion about that yesterday. Okay, so right now I believe you can actually use the apprentice version of Houdini and write out an OpenVDB. That is a tongue twister, man. OpenVDB file and bring it into Houdini. However, that apprentice version is only a learning version, so you're not supposed to use it for any type of production or anything. So I guess if you're learning, and that's cool, but if you're still even gonna post it to YouTube or Instagram or anything where there's any hint of monetization, yeah, like you probably want to be careful. So I would recommend picking up, if you're going to do that, pick up the indie version, which is $269 a year, which is super cheap. And as long as you don't go over $100,000 a year with your, in revenue with using that anywhere in your pipeline, like you're good to go. So $269 a year is, I mean, I know a lot of people listening to this who use Blender. They love the free stuff, and a lot of people don't have a lot of money, and right now things are definitely really scary out there in the world. But it's a bargain for that. If you want to do any type of simulation, like I'll go to Grant. Houdini really is. It is the king right now in running any type of simulation, because the way it scales, the way it uses Vex, which is their internal language, the way it's multi-threaded. The list goes on and on about why it's just incredible at what it does.
Also, on that price point, for people to sort of critique the price point, $200, if you get hired for a Houdini project, like to make a simulation, you're going to make like 100 times more than $200. So that's sort of when people want to criticize like things being, paid for, you make that money back. Whenever you're paying for something, especially if you're a professional, you need to calculate like, will I make my money back? You will make that 1 billion times fold in 1 year. So that's why it costs so much, because the program is so vast, and like the amount of tutorials you can probably see about it and look into it. It's a cool program. I want to learn it myself if I one day ever have time.
You could honestly bake out these open VDB caches and like sell 3D explosions. Wait, if I just have indie, is that something I can do?
Yeah, as long as you don't go under. Yeah, I was thinking about doing the same thing. Like, as long as you don't go over like $100,000 a year, and honestly, like if you're baking out explosions and stuff, that's cool that people can go and they can shoot it from all these different angles. But the second that the art director or the director says, "Hey, I want that explosion to do this," you're kind of hosed on that. So like there's kind of a catch-22 on the selling on the whole thing about these pre-baked, pre-canned explosions. But that said, I mean, look at Action Essentials from Andrew Kramer. Like I've used them over and over again at work, and they're pretty cool. And every time somebody says hey, can this explosion do that? Then yeah, all right, I have to go back into like Houdini or into Maya and simulate something. But whatever.
In Action Essentials, did they like film explosions, or was that simulated?
Yeah, they filmed a lot of it. They actually he lives out in like Temecula or something out here, like in the middle of nowhere. So they go out to the desert, I think, and they just, or in his house, I have no idea. But they shot stuff against a black backdrop and like all different explosions. So if you go in Action Essentials, you can see like the fuel that they use to like ignite the fire and stuff. So there's like wood or whatever, or like spray, mist, and then boom, explosion. It's kind of cool. Oh.
That's much cooler than just like adding a file cache node and being like save to disk.
That's interesting. If I was going to say, if there's a demand for that, then I could technically do that. My dad's a special effects supervisor, and they have to do that. Yeah. They have to do that quite often on a lot of the jobs for elements, like after filming, during filming, whatever. Just like after the main filming's done, just there with like a visual effects team recording in front of a backdrop, green screen, black screen, blue screen, whatever, just to get elements for later on.
Did we talk about that LED system that they did on The Mandalorian?
No, but that looks really cool. That's a totally different topic, but wow.
What Curtis was just talked about for post, it reminded me. I was wondering if you guys had looked into this. Was that so in The Mandalorian, what they did was they used a game engine to. Well, first let me just say what it is. It's basically this big circle LED. I think it's an LED screen. Actually, no, it's a projection. I believe it's a projection. But they have this big thing inside a warehouse, circular projection of a environment, and they use a game engine so they can real time use it, and then it's tracked to the camera. So when they're filming the person, in this case like the Mandalorian, it's moving that scene with the Mandalorian so that he has this this metal helmet, so he needs those realistic reflections. And so instead of dealing with all of it in post, they're able to make changes in real time using these game engine run environments inside of this projection. And I believe it's the first time that's been done. So it's really cool that Disney's innovating. But what Curtis was talking about with that post-production, now they're using game engines to make these environments in this really cool thing, which is just another example of how guys like us, 3D artists, can, get hired for stuff like that. But it's an amazing technology that Disney's starting to use.
Is this like real-time motion tracking of the camera? So you just basically just point and shoot?
It's not even motion tracking. It is some type of tracking where they're tracking the camera, the guy, and mapping the visuals to fit that, to make it look like he's in that environment.
Yeah, they're creating they're Unreal, and then they're using some sort of motion tracking and camera tracking to be able to. So in the viewport, as the backdrop, instead of a green screen like Grant has behind his head right now, they actually will have like LED projectors or LED screens that have the Unreal environment on them. So it's like TVs in the background that are actually projecting the environment, and as the camera moves, it moves. The parallax is correct, and everything seems to be correct, and that way, at least from a somewhat hemispherical background, you're getting the accurate reflections. You don't need to do any keying. Or very little keying, because you already have the backgrounds in the helmet. It's all reflecting and everything is working, and the only thing you don't get is the fourth wall, which you really never get on a film set anyway, unless they're completely immersed in the scene. So it's working really well, and it's cutting out a whole lot of the green screen removal stuff, and cuts out all the spill, all the green spill and all the blue spill and all that stuff. And it seems to be really cool. I know. And then also the director can see it in his screen. So as he's watching, the film, the shot progress, he can actually see what it's going to look like. 60 or 70% there already. So it's a really cool technology, and I think honestly it's going to open up a tremendous opportunity for visual effects artists going forward.
I actually had a conversation with a couple of visual effects houses about something similar. Motion tracking, real-time tracking for pre-visualization as well as post-visualization, because as you're saying, one thing that's really handy is when you're on set, being able to see what the environment looks like before the actors actually start filming and while they're filming as well. And I think there was a story about like Spielberg using it quite heavily with Ready Player One as well, being able to, because a lot of that, most of the film is just 3D environments. So actually being able to see this fantasy land, around the characters while you're on set, it's a really handy tool. But you've got to think about enhancing real environments as well. So if you get people to come in and build custom environments, you can get it to a certain level of physicality. But then if you want to add sort of more effects over the top of that, like kind of practical effects, in quotes, practical effects for a fantasy universe, that's also a really cool way of visualizing it as well. So there's lots of good potential. And when I was talking to a couple of companies, one of them was called Proof Inc. from here in London. They're really keen on experimenting with different game engines, as said. And they're saying, well, what should we use? Should we use like Unity? Should we use Unreal? And this kind of brings on to the subject of, like, with Blender, a lot of people ask, why is it not the industry standard? And it usually comes down to a matter of how to integrate it into workflow rather than its pricing model. And when speaking to them, it became really clear that that there's no like bias there against we only use Maya because that's what we've been taught. They're like, no, they're always looking for like new pieces of software coming up to use, whether or not they're open source. The licensing doesn't scare them. It's literally just, okay, what's the easiest one to integrate into our workflow? And so there's lots and lots of people in the visual effects industry who are experimenting. There's so many like little R&D groups inside of all these visual effects houses that are trying to come up with all these new techniques to integrate these different graphics technologies. And I think that is going to open up the way for a variety of new, rather specific jobs for people. So what we're talking about now, I think it's quite handy to help people figure out like kind of what they want to do, what types of work they want to go into, visual effects, gaming, because there are going to be new avenues to come up. And when hiring for visual effects, if you ever look on any of the careers pages of visual effects houses, you'll notice that their jobs are oftentimes very, very specific.
Very.
And yeah, so I think like that's something to keep an eye on. It's a little bit tricky getting hired for visual effects houses now because like though the jobs are very specific, the types of jobs are also changing very quickly. So people need to make a decision of like, do I want to spend all my time focusing into at least one specific type of field, or do I want to generalize across like related subjects? So I just thought that was like something just to pitch in about the related subject, because I think there are quite a few people out there, especially in our audience, that might find that a bit helpful.
Yeah, I think so. You're spot on with that. Like the industry changes so much. Like the stuff that James Cameron was doing on Avatar, when he was really kind of pioneering the in-camera previs stuff with I think this guy Rob Powers from the Lightwave. He was the president of Lightwave or New Tech was helping him on that, and had this whole thing, the whole setup in Lightwave, this virtual camera setup, and was pioneering that. And this whole thing that's coming now is kind of like the big brother of that, and it just keeps going forward and going forward. But yeah, the industry changes a lot, and I see the rest of this fanboy kind of comments that come up, and there's nothing new. This has been going on forever about Maya versus 3D Studio Max versus XSI versus Blender. It's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't. Like learn the techniques and then figure out how to do it in any other software that comes around that can do it better than the thing you're using right now. That's really it. And the niching in the industry is really happening. Like Curtis said, it's changing so fast. But right now, like people who know Unreal or Niagara for doing real-time visual effects in Unreal is taking off like wildfire. Houdini is another one that's it's a niche thing. It's very niche for bringing down cities and doing like really cool particle animations, and the motion graphics community seems to be picking it up kind of like as a natural progression from Cinema 4D, which is, from what I see, it's like Cinema 4D is the only one I've never used, but it looks really awesome, and I know some of you have used it. Ducky, you've used it. I know some of you guys have used it. But it's Houdini, just the solver system is phenomenal. But again, it's a niche thing. So in a job, you're going to change as your career moves on. Like you're not just going to be in one thing. You're going to progress into different things as time goes on. Like I've been lucky enough to be a generalist for like the last solidly 15 to almost 20 years, and I can do everything, but I'm not in like the sexy Hollywood industry. Like I've done film stuff, like limited film stuff and other industries, but I've been able to eke out a living doing 3D forever, and it's awesome, and I get to be a generalist. But if you're in film, it's more of a cog in a wheel thing.
Absolutely. Well said.
It does seem that Unreal is doing a lot better than Unity, because they seem to be the sort of two that people can get hold of and get licenses for to do their work. But Unreal seems to be really kicking ass in a sense with that sort of stuff. And because I'm teaching games design and making game models, we often use Unity because it's sort of a bit more adaptable than Unreal. But and I'm sort of regretting the decision to go with Unity a lot of the time, because Unreal seems to be much more innovative in terms of these especially the visual effects industry. They seem to be sort of moving towards film a bit more now as well.
Okay. So, now this is my area of expertise, because I spent years working with Unity. Now,
awesome.
Now the thing about Unity versus Unreal, and it's so annoying. Like whenever I get like people that want to get into game development come to me, they're like, "Oh no, I want to use Unreal because Unity's crap," or "I want to use Unity because Unreal's crap." Shut up! Just stop it. So the reason why people open up like both the softwares and think, okay, Unreal is superior to start with, is because when you open that first scene, it's loaded with post-processing effects. It's got everything set up for you. It's made to look nice, to draw you in, right? Even the interface looks like it was designed by a teenager. with all these fancy icons and all that. Unity is not designed that way. It's removed a layer of abstraction from Unreal. Basically, Unreal tries to design a whole bunch of windows to help you do specific tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Unity is stripped down. It's more for the programmer. That's why the component stack is emphasized in the user interface. That's why, when you click on objects, you see in the inspector, you look at the component stack. Someone who's a programmer understands this script runs first, then this one, then this one. It's designed for coders. Unreal is not. Unreal is more designed for artists and people that don't want to work with code. That's why they built the blueprint system. And that's why they put so much effort into the blueprint system, which is arguably one of the best visual scripting tools available, ever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something that I want people to know. It's not that one is better than the other. They're both completely capable of doing the same things. But to reach those same things, you're going to require different skill sets for each of them. Unity is arguably going to require a more technical skill set. Unreal is going to require, first of all, learning how to use all of the tools that are made for Unreal, and then a little layer of extra technical afterwards. So that's just something I wanted to throw in there.
Do you think Unity is going to be as as capable as Unreal with that sort of the sort of movie integration, which they seem to be sort of heading towards with Unreal?
I don't think it's so much a priority for them, because I feel like it's really hard to say, because Unity's changed direction so many times over the years with their updates, and they're working on so many different things at once. And this is represented where a lot of the newer features for Unity you actually have to import separately after downloading the software through the package manager. It's hard to say exactly what they're focusing on. But they are getting more into the visual effects side of things, because they've just created what they call their visual effects graph, or their visual effects node-based editor. And it is in quite early stages, but they're just starting to get into node-based design, which they've never been interested in before. And I feel like that's not just a reflection of Unreal's success, but also Blender's success, Houdini success. It just seems like a really common, really nice and easy to use interface. But they have been doing visual demonstrations. Occasionally they do short films. Neil Blomkamp from Oatmeal, you may have seen he's done a few short films using Unity before. So they are definitely interested in it. But I think that a lot of their money comes from the indie type audience. They Unity tends to own a certain area of the indie game development niche that Unreal doesn't. Then maybe to do with royalties, ease of access, educational resources, whatever. It's hard to say. So I don't know. But again, talking about the visual effects houses, they were very keen on using Unity to develop tools as opposed to Unreal Engine. Because Unity is quite extensible with writing custom editor interfaces, I feel like Unity is probably more useful for writing tools. Plus, the C#.NET framework is very handy for writing tools. It's a nice language to write with compared to C++ for Unreal Engine. So it's hard to say. It feels like they're both going to fall into slightly different niches, and there will be some overlap, but I feel like Unreal is definitely going to have the monopoly on real-time, good-looking effects for visual effects, for gaming, etc. And that's also just exemplified with all the Quixel integrations as well.
Yeah, I learned C# just for Unity, and it was pretty awesome. It's very elegant, but it's a learning curve.
Yeah, it's my favorite language. If I could use C# with Blender, I would be all day, every day.
Yeah, it's so easy.
C# is my favorite note on the piano. See, I know what y'all are talking about.
Yeah. There you go. C# minor.
Oh. Cool. Well, since we're talking about industry, one thing I wanted to get into, but I want to keep this lighthearted. I don't want to get too sad about it. But this is something that everyone's talking about, and that is, how is this pandemic happening right now going to affect our industry? But because I don't want to get too sad about it, how can we take this and combat it and still remain positive, not just be like, oh, this is killing my industry, but how can we take the fact that this is killing part of an industry and take what we're doing and move it to a point that we can sustain what we're doing? So first on, let's go. What'd you say?
I haven't heard. What pandemic is this?
I don't know. Corona.
Don't ruin it for Grant.
Yeah. So first off, in the industries that we work in, I'll start with mine. Every concert is being canceled right now, and a subset of my business is making visuals for concerts. So no one's going to be asking me to make visuals anymore. So for me, I make, right now I'm working on a pack of 50 plus looping animations for concert visuals. really what I have to do now is rebrand that into abstract backgrounds, and then selling project files, the different things like that. Instead of marketing it to artists that will be performing on stage, I have to market it towards something else and working on the advertising in that sense. And then also taking my skills and applying them to something else that doesn't have to do with live performance. And there's 1,000 different things I can do. I'm working on a course that's supposed to be called, how to make concert visuals in 3D. And I just have to rebrand it to making abstract motion graphics in Blender. So it's just different things like that. That's sort of my example of how it's affecting me, but how I'm having to just take it and change it so I don't, die in terms of my, my career.
Yeah, it's gonna come back.
Yeah.
I mean, I just watched. I don't know why I do this, but I watched this thing called Pandemic. It was like a PBS special thing on Netflix yesterday, and it was talking about the 1918 flu, and it was horrible. I mean, it was just, man. I don't know why I watched it. I had trouble sleeping, but then all of a sudden in 2 months or something after the big wave in October of 1918, it I guess people developed enough herd immunity. It killed a whole lot of people. I mean, it was really, like I said, horrible stuff. But at some point, it went away. Not miraculously, but because the people suffered, they went through it, and the survivors developed a herd immunity that it went away and life resumed, and it picked up again. So the concert stuff it will come back.
Yeah.
But nobody knows right now what this thing's going to do. I follow some virologists and epidemiologists on Twitter, and they've been warning. They've been throwing up red flags for the last 2 months. Nobody knows where this is going, but try to stay positive in the fact that we'll get through it, and hopefully we'll all get through it, and things will resume. But in the meantime, it's really stressful because nobody knows what's going on. And I think now is a great time to, if you want to practice the social distancing that everybody's talking about, which does help stem the spread of this thing, you have plenty of options to go online and learn stuff, up your skill set. I remember after 9/11, I was in New York, and we were talking to people who were, their businesses were pretty much decimated. They had enough to survive and to live, and all they were doing was improving their skill set for when things got better. And then when things got better, they were in the right position to just jump on stuff.
If I can add to that, for those of you who are just going to be cooped up in your houses, and guys who are watching who do make concert visuals, if you guys come out of this and you don't have the best work you've ever done, I better see some awesome stuff on the internet once this is over, because you're going to be cooped up in your house. Take the time to learn some stuff. Don't just sit in your house depressed, because being fully honest, this pandemic hasn't affected the U.S. massively yet, and it's already affecting my drive. I'm demotivated some mornings to get up because I'm so depressed about it. And I have to fight that every day to sort of get on my computer and continue working. And so guys, don't let it affect you. Try to be positive and take this time to learn as much as you can, so when you come out of this, you're even more marketable as an artist. Try to take this and spin it to a positive.
Yeah, and the shining light in this whole thing. I mean, it's as horrible as it is. There, a lot of really smart people are working on a vaccine. It's gonna happen. It's gonna come. They're gonna do clinical trials. It's gonna come, and we're all gonna have some kind of herd immunity to this. I can't. I don't have a crystal ball. But I try to stay positive. It's really depressing right now, and it's really scary, and it really is affecting a certain demographic of people who we love. And the best thing to do is when you're staying home, stay as much as you can. The economy is tanking; it's going to take a hit. I think we'll get through it. I think that the economy, it's going to suck, and we're going to have to really I don't know. Hopefully, the governments or other things step in to help people out. But we're going to get through it.
In terms of the what you work in, Curtis, I know you know a lot about the game industry and VFX. How is it currently and in the future affecting that industry that you see and work in?
well, to talk about the film industry briefly, I don't know how many of you have seen, but they started pushing film releases back because they know that they're not going to get the sort of the audience numbers that they want, and so clearly that will affect future film choices. Hypothetically, if they did release a film and it didn't do well, that would affect choices for future film scripts. Also, in regards to my dad, he usually comes home certain times throughout the week. He has not come home this time because where he's working at the moment, because it's like a sort of secluded studio. It's not near a train station or anything. The only way in and out is via car, basically. And they're trying to make sure that nothing spreads in there. So they know exactly who's coming in, they know exactly who's going out, and they say as soon as you show any symptoms, just don't come in, because they're trying to keep it open as long as possible, because they know that as soon as one shuts, all the studios are basically going to have to shut, and it's just going to shut down. So they're trying to be very stringent and careful about it. Just to add to our line of work with YouTube, I don't know if you've noticed, but ad revenue seems to be going down now that the crisis has popped up. I've seen this on a few Reddit threads as well. There's I don't know if any of you are in it, but Partnered YouTuber has a subreddit where people post questions and stuff. I've seen it on there. So there's all these little things happening, but I think the main source of worriment is the unknown, because I don't know personally whether to feel scared or relaxed about the pandemic. Okay, why would you feel relaxed about it? Well, I don't know, because we're being told that young people aren't affected, but at the same time, that's not really true. So I don't know, because on the news, we're getting messages from footballers and other people and doctors, even from Italy, that are having it and sharing their symptoms on a day-by-day basis. And they're going, oh, well, 80% of cases are only mild. And I'm like, okay, 80%, that's a large number. Only mild, you might not even know that you have it. And then you look at the death numbers and you're like, whoa. And it says, okay, well, these are mostly older people. So, well, it's just so strange how, age makes such a significant difference, an exponential, increase. And, I have a bit of a suppressed immune system. So I'm thinking, well, I'm young, so that puts me more likely to have only mild symptoms. Should I be worried now because I have a slightly suppressed one? I don't know. So but that weight of that indecision is bearing a load on me, because now, Ducky, I'm a little bit demotivated to work, because I'm thinking, well, should I be focusing on other things right now? I mean, if I suddenly put all this effort into a video and put it out, are people gonna watch it? Because are they interested in watching this type of content right now? Because their lives are probably under a lot of stress as well. It's just the uncertainty. If I had more data on how a virus would affect me specifically, my family members, then I would be able to relax. Even if it's not good news, just knowing how it would affect you makes all the difference, I think.
That's what we don't have.
Yeah, but I'm also in a bit of a different situation, me and Grant, because the UK at the moment is taking a bit of a different reaction to the virus in other countries. Yeah, because from our perspective, they're not doing any more tests unless the symptoms are serious enough that you have to call up to the emergency room. So it seems in our country we've sort of accepted the herd immunity route, and we're okay, let's just get everyone infected as soon as possible, and then become a weapon against it, even though more people will die.
Yeah, it's Johnson's approach, right?
Yeah. But the World Health Organization is trying to combat against that. But we'll see. But here's the thing, they're not wrong. That is one way to get through it. But comparing that to, say, if we did social distancing, kept everyone inside, and just reduced as much contact as possible, first of all, you want to know, when would the virus go away fastest, and which one of these cases is going to result in the least deaths. And I think that the social distancing one, we'll just call it that even though it's more than social distancing, is definitely going to result in less deaths. Don't know whether or not it'd be faster at getting rid of the virus, but it's one of these weird situations where you're what's the right answer? We don't know if there is a perfect answer to it. But South Korea seems to be doing fairly well with keeping newer cases down at the moment, because they've been taking some very harsh distancing measures quite early on. So, to be honest, I would like to see more of that. And you know what? Because we're YouTubers, it doesn't affect us so much. So we've got to consider ourselves lucky. because I can literally sit in here for weeks and weeks and weeks. Like, so long as the internet is good, like, I'm fine. I'll just be playing games like for weeks. but like, I do worry about like people bringing it home. But I don't know. Those are just all my thoughts about it. I'm not, to be honest, I'm personally not that scared about it, because I think with a little bit of a rebellious personality, if I catch the virus, I'm not going down without a fight. And I'm not going down without making some artwork about it as well. So that's my take on it.
Did y'all see
The new
Beeple's
Beeple.
render of Tom Hanks?
Yes. Punching the virus.
How did Beeple get a face model of Tom Hanks the day Tom Hanks got it? That's incredible.
He's got some resources.
That guy's awesome. That guy's really cool. But yeah, I thought that was one of the funniest things he's done so far is Tom Hanks beating the S out of coronavirus.
Yeah,
Yes.
I shared that to my friends.
Yeah, he put the coronavirus on someone's head and made it all like pink
Yeah.
or fuchsia or something, and just had him beating it down.
That reminds me, CG Matter, have you gotten any negative backlash on your coronavirus modeling tutorial?
Here's what you have to understand. I don't read comments.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know.
That
doesn't matter.
I feel like if you did read them, so there's this comedian Anthony Jeselnik, and so he had just finished telling this long story that some may be offended by. He goes, so after I tell this near the end of my shows, I see a lot of reactions. Some happy, some sad, some seem to be in physical pain, some seem to be offended. But to me, those are all the same.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how CG Matter would react to his
It's a tutorial. I don't know how anybody could be offended by it, but if they are, I don't know, because I don't listen.
Yeah. I'll read it for you.
I had a couple of months ago when I did that skin thing. I don't know if you guys have seen that. I did a video on like this like nasty skin
Oh yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It was kind of gross. I don't know why I did it. It was just fun. That's why I do videos, because they're fun. I don't know. But I was like, people were like, the coronavirus, and I just didn't want to touch it back then, because I was like, people in China were dying and nobody knew anything about this thing, and like,
Yeah.
you know, we don't know if we could trust the data coming out of China or whatever. I mean, it was the fog of war, and it still is. But I was just like, I can't do it. But like, if I weren't reading comments, I probably totally would have done that and not cared. But yeah, that's why I was like, I think I posted. I was like, dude, you did this. Like, you finally did it. You did it. You just didn't care. That was awesome.
I even the day you uploaded it, a guy said, make a coronavirus modeling tutorial. I'm like, well,
Yeah,
your boy did it.
exactly.
It's like, there's no way you know me and don't know him, so I know you watched it.
I'm I think maybe a bit too politically correct to do that sort of thing on my channel. But
Yeah.
let's see. I'd like to just like go off the rails one day and do it, but I'm afraid of disappointing people, because people expect like a certain element of standard from me now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
But
the
I
only reason
sent
why I
that-
haven't done it either.
Yeah, I sent you.
I haven't, but
I sent you guys like a screenshot of an email I got. Do you remember that recently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I put out the city scatter tour, which, by the way, if any of my audience watching, thank you. We broke my Gumroad record for sales on that day. That was crazy. But I got a message from someone saying like, stop releasing this like unfinished crap. Like, just I was like,
yeah,
no. Oh,
like it's not unfinished crap. Like, just get it out there
and
and
but
then
also,
iterate.
I was going to say, on the matter of like CG Matter not reading comments, on that rap video, the diss track one, you did get a few contentious comments on there. Some
I
of them
did
was
read those because I did want to know.
Yeah.
'Cause I wanted to see if anybody was like making disses to, well, whatever.
I really, really wanted to respond to some of them, like, because I felt a bit protective of you, but I was like, oh, you know what, he's probably not going to read them, and I'm not going to get involved because it's not his audience.
Sometimes I want to do that for like all of you guys' videos, because I read comments, everybody's comments. And so I'm like, no, he's a good guy, I promise. Don't be so mean to him.
Yeah, I'm like the same. I have jumped in every now and then, but then it's like, all right, now I'm in a flame war with somebody, and I'm like, okay, great. Now I was like, I'm gonna lose more sleep because I'm gonna be thinking about like this war that I'm in with someone. It's like, I don't even do it on Facebook anymore. Like all the people posting like this like obvious like propaganda and political stuff and like disinformation and all. I'm just like, I'm done. I'll put it away and I'm focusing on my business. That's it.
The thing,
I'm going.
the thing I've recognized, which is why I've pulled back, because I used to comment back on like mean comments. Try to just sort of not argue with them, but just sort of like reason with them. But I notice if you do that, it invites more people to do it, and then it becomes a normal thing.
Yeah.
In the comments. And so, I think if people know a pressure point that you have, they're going to go after it.
They will.
I have stopped talking to people that are negative, and there are times where I have banned people from commenting. Like, I'm not afraid to do that. If you're not contributing in a positive way to the comment section of my videos, there's no reason for you to be there because this is free content.
I'm the same way. I have a whole list now. Like, if people they make these really dumb, dumb comments are one thing. Like, I could be like, all right, that wasn't really great. And like a lot of times you go back and they're like, oh man, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. And they're usually cool people. There's some people though that are just like, I mean, like the dangerous type comments where you're like, is this person gonna be like stalking me? Like, who is it? Like that, I just ban. I don't want them anywhere near my stuff.
Do you ever check out your held for review section of your comments?
Yes.
I do. CG shaking his head. He's like, oh no.
Oh, you probably have the worst one, CG.
On a positive note, I suppose, with the coronavirus and lots of people staying in, I imagine lots of people will be playing games. So if you're in the games industry, that could be quite a good one.
Yeah, the only thing... My roommate, he works for a company that does overlays for game streamers, and I was telling him, I was like, yeah, your company's probably going to do great. And then the next day he goes, hey, on that note, it hasn't affected their sales yet, but he says, but investors in the company have halted payments because their other investments have crashed. So that's really the issue whenever it comes to that kind of stuff, is investments. So the stock market...
I'll take that back then, I think.
Yeah. The stock market made a little bull run right at the end of trading on Friday when Trump gave his little speech with all the CEOs behind him all shaking hands with each other. But it rallied. But man, I'm looking at the Dow futures and it's like, what's happening for tomorrow, man?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just to note on investments and stuff, the value of Bitcoin is like almost halved, I think. So now's a good time to buy if anyone's interested.
Yeah.
Because if it goes back up to its original point, then that'll be like doubling in value.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, it was down to like 4,000 or something.
To end this podcast on a positive note, this is not as bad as the Spanish flu. We're all going to be fine. The world will recover like it always does. So just have faith. And live day to day, and you're gonna, everyone's gonna be fine. I think by summer we'll probably be good. So, just work on your thing, stay positive, stay motivated, and we're all gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. We're all,
we'll still be making content for you.
Yeah, guys, especially now that I'm gonna be in my house all day. You're going to get even more videos.
Unless I have pneumonia or a serious knockdown flu symptoms, like I'm making content. So, yeah.
So we're not halting.
I'm not. Yeah, we're not halting.
We're not Andrew. We're not Curtis halting.
Yes. Ooh. I like it.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you guys next week for the next episode. Okay. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
All right. See you guys.